I'm pretty sure it's no secret that I'm a fan of the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book, and it's probably no secret that the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book is published by Archie Comics. But what you probably didn't know is it's not the only Archie comic book I've read. I've actually read the Ninja Turtle Adventures, as you probably saw when I showed you that collection. I've read those before I did this one, but also I've had my share of reading Archie comics when I was a kid as well, growing up. Heck, I have probably one of the only comics that are not Sonic or Turtles related in the Sabrina comic, because of course it crosses over with Sonic. I'm surprised they haven't done a Sonic Archie crossover, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do plan on doing that in the future. But anyway, Archie, of course, started back in the late 30s, as many of you probably know, and has been going since then. And he's had a lot of comics besides just the main self-titled comic. He's had Life with Archie, he's had Super Teens, he's had spin-offs like Betty and Veronica, He's had Betty and Veronica as a spin-off. He's had Jughead as a spin-off. You name it. Even Reggie, I think, had a spin-off. And like I said, they've had things like Life with Archie, Super Teens, and heck, they've even had one of the most popular ones in the recent decade, in Archie's Rare Mysteries. And of course, they have other spin-offs coming as well. Some I think they're working on one where the Archie characters are like portrayed as living zombies of the undead or something, I'm not sure. They just have a lot coming out still, and again, along with the mainstay titles, what more can you ask for? And in recent years, of course, they've come up with another solution, another title, sort of a what-if deal. So you probably know by now, a couple years ago, a big news item from Archie Comics hit the media. Basically, it was about Archie finally tying the knot, finally choosing one of the two and tying the knot. And of course, later on, we did find out, the media also updated us on this, that the voting to figure out who Archie would finally choose, because they did want to put it to a vote, was actually more of a promotional deal, if you will, to basically advertise for a couple issues of the main comic. Basically taking a couple of issues, each dedicated to one story, and making them into what-ifs. And those stories, of course, were Archie marries Veronica, and Archie marries Betty. That's right. These are basically more like dream sequences, in case you don't know, to kind of see what it would be like if Archie had married one of the girls and had a future, had a life with them. And I apologize. Those are kids. I apologize. And I apologize for that. Some kids were going by. I don't know why they do that. And that was my dog doing her job. But anyway, like I said, they had this going on for at least, I think, 5, 6 issues or 8 issues or something like that. 4 issues dedicated to one and about 3 or 4 dedicated to the other. Now, Betty and Veronica, as you probably know, were not the only ones in Archie's life as far as relationship goes, because that for the past, what is it now, 87, going on 80 years almost, was the main selling point. Well, almost, about 75 years almost, was the main selling point for Archie. It's true. That was the main selling point. The main selling point was the love triangle. Not just the friendships, but the love triangle. Basically, who would Archie go with? And of course, they would pair up, I think, Veronica with Reggie at times, who was sort of like his best, sort of a friendly rival, if you will. Sort of think of Reggie as like the Antoine from Sat AM. Everybody knows that Antoine always wanted to, kind of outdo Sonic, impress Sally as much as he can so he can win our heart. Same thing here with Reggie. He wanted to basically impress either Betty and Veronica and say, hey, I'm a better choice than he is. So anyway, this was one of the constant selling points for quite some time. But like I said, it wasn't the only love interest Archie had. We also had another love interest into the fray a few times. I think Sabrina may have, once or twice, I could be wrong. But we also had others, like a girl named Katie, I believe, entered, as well as Cheryl Blossom. Now Cheryl Blossom, of course, was taken out after she first appeared for being obviously dubbed too sexual. But due to her popularity, she was brought back. So, basically now, Archie's sort of like kind of a basically now Archie does have a bit of a relationship. It's a long distance relationship, but it's still a relationship. And it seems to be the kind that will last probably be longer than any long distance relationships, and probably a little stronger. You see, right now, Betty's sort of like dating in between two different boys. I think Cheryl Blossom's brother and another guy. Well, Veronica is sort of like that option that's still there, but more along the lines of, she'll still go with somebody else, but she's still that option. She's still there. And of course you have Cheryl Blossom. But besides those, there was one that made news around last year, not last year, but for the past 2 years, made some news. And still continues to this day. Because like I said, apparently this long-distance relationship that Archie has with her is a little stronger than some long-distance relationships are given credit for. Basically, Archie's new love interest, as far as we still know, is Valerie Smith. I think that's her name. I think that's her name, Valerie. Basically, Valerie. And if you don't know who Valerie is, where the heck have you been? Valerie is from Josie and the Pussycats. Now, Josie and the Pussycats, of course, came out in the 60s and 70s, mostly the 70s, and like Sabrina, basically helped put the Archie Comics Company on the map. And not just because of Archie and his friends themselves and the spin-offs, but because of the fact of who they were. And in my personal opinion, surpassed Sabrina and became the second most well-known title out of the Archieverse. Now, just like Archie, Josie has had the various out-of-comic spin-offs. Archie, as we know, had Funhouse and things like that. Had Archie's Funhouse and, of course, Little Archie's. Josie and the Pussycats had Josie and the Pussycats by Hanna-Barbera, Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space, and then over the past decade, had Josie and the Pussycats, the movie. And Archie Comics, Archie also had a movie as well. Archie had a live-action movie as well, I should say, and that was Archie Returned to Riverdale, which I do have on here. Well, it's basically back to the 15-year reunion, and in case you don't know, well, let's just say the ending's kind of a happy ending, if you know what I mean. Anyway, both have had a lot in common. Like I said, they've had various animated spin-offs, live-action movie adaptations, despite, Archie being television movie, basically originally supposed to be a pilot for a series. Well, Josie and the Pussycats got a theatrical release. Now, Josie and the Pussycats, though, just like another thing they have in common with Archie's Return to Riverdale, didn't do so well. Yes, the performances for Archie's Return to Riverdale were praised, but ratings-wise, it just didn't do as well as people would hope for. Josie and the Pussycats, on the other hand, didn't do so well in the theaters, and just like some movies, when they get sent after the run in the main theaters, and they get sent to the second-hand theaters, basically like the $1.50, $2 theaters, well, let's just say it didn't do so well there either. How do I know? Because I went to go see it at the theater that was right next door to where I lived. And guess what? I was the only one there watching it. I am not lying. I was the only one watching it. I was surprised. I'll tell you, I was surprised. I thought they would come in and say, oh, you're the only one. We're going to have to refund you and let you see something else. No, I was the only one in there. If anybody else did come in, I didn't see them. But I was the only one to see Josie and the Pussycats. And I have to say that I thought it was all right. You know, I'm not going to judge it. I thought it was okay. I mean, you can't always aim for perfection when it comes to a live-action movie, so I thought it was okay. You know, that's just my opinion, though. I know other people have their own. But anyway, they basically have a lot of things in common. And of course, they have done various crossovers with each other in the comics. But recently, in the past few years, an event happened in both comics that I'm surprised didn't get much media attention, but basically stamped itself as a historical event for the Archie comics. Like I said, Archie's basically, one of his main selling points was the love triangle with Betty and Veronica. Sometimes you throw in a girl like Cheryl Blossom and Katie, or whatever her name was. And, you know, you constantly wonder, okay, who's he going to choose? Is he going to choose one of the two main girls? Is he going to choose somebody on the outside? Well, he did choose somebody on the outside. He chose somebody from the other comic book, Valerie. That's right, he chose Valerie of Josie and the Pussycats. And mainly how this happened is, let's just say they were collaborating together on a song, and basically that's how it all went. You know, and that's basically how it all came together. And of course, just like with Betty and Veronica, they had a Archie Mary's arc going on to see what it would be like if those two were together. Now, believe it or not, like I said, I'm kind of surprised not much media attention was thrown this way, because it's the first, I can't think of the word right now. It's basically the first interracial relationship Archie's ever had. And it's with a character from another comic book, of course, produced by Archie Comics. And this is what I'm talking about by saying it's this is the long-distance relationship that I was talking about. Basically, both had to be separated because Josie and the Pussycats were going on tour in Europe. Now, I don't know whether or not Archie Comics is going to wrap it up a little bit and see if they can get the two back together, or what's going to happen. Or if they're going to go back to status quo. We don't know. But the truth is, it was kind of a historical event. And believe it or not, the reason I talk about this now is because I heard about it. I just thought, you know, I thought it wasn't, I heard about it. I just didn't think it was that big of a deal to make until I read more about it. Found out that it spanned more than just maybe one or two issues. And to me, I think, you know, and to me, I honestly have to say, I thought it was a very unique move by Archie Comics, who mainly had their main character date, you know, the white girl, if you know what I mean. So the question is now, will they finish this up? Will they wrap it up? Will they get them back together? Will they have them paired off with other characters? Who knows? I mean, heck, because of this, you had Veronica become a pussycat. You had, I think, Valerie join the Archies. It was crazy. But now the question is, will they, how are they going to wrap this up if they haven't already? I know there's a lot of people that read the comics, those Archie comics more than I do, so maybe you can let me know. But the question is, will they get them back together, or how are they going to wrap that up? It's a huge question, but to me, I have to give thumbs up to Archie Comics for doing this, because I don't think anybody that has grown up with Archie in the past 75-something years would have seen this coming. I don't think anybody would have seen this coming. So that's just my thoughts on the whole Archie and Valerie shipping. Let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. I'll talk to y'all later.